Life in the 1940s by Anne Flegg, Glenhaven, 2156. Narrated by Chloe Schwank. I have many vivid memories of the 1940s when I lived in Auburn, one of the suburbs of Western Sydney. Today, for a young person looking back on those times, life would appear to be antiquated, unexciting, and unworldly. And it was, compared to 2025. But between the 1940s and 2025, gigantic steps forward have been made, and life has forged ahead in leaps and bounds. I'm privileged to have been part of it. My parents and I lived with my maternal grandparents in a modest brick house with a large backyard. The area was sewered, and we had gas and electricity. There were few cars, so few in fact that there were no traffic lights. People either walked, caught a bus or train, or rode a bicycle. We kept roosters, hens, a few ducks, and always had plenty of eggs, and from time to time ate homegrown roast chicken or duck. Nana was an expert in chopping off the birds' heads with a tomahawk, while Papa held the bird in place. The gory deed being carried out on an old tree stump. When I found out one night that Dopey Dora, one of my favourite hens, was on the menu for dinner, I refused to open my mouth. The milkman and baker with their horse and cart were familiar sights on the streets and delivered every day. The milkman came in the cool of the morning before it became too hot and the milk spoiled. My grandfather was usually the one who took the billy can out to the milkman, who filled it from one of the large cans sitting in the back of the cart. I was fascinated by the well-trained horse, remaining stationary while the milkman filled the billy can, then, when the milkman clicked his tongue, would move forward to the next house while the milkman walked along behind. My grandfather constantly encouraged me to give the horse a pat, but it seemed so large and intimidating. Instead, I preferred to stand inside the wire gate where I felt safe. I wonder what our milkmen would think of the supermarkets of today, with their wide range of dairy products having been transported in huge refrigerated trucks from country areas. The baker and his horse also had a well-choreographed routine, and usually delivered in time for lunch. The fresh, warm bread was always something to look forward to. For breakfast the next day, the bread was toasted and spread with butter and homemade jam from our fruit trees. Sliced bread was unheard back then, something we now take for granted. Loaves were cut with a bread knife, and slices were usually uneven and chunky. So, when sliced bread became a reality and bread knives a thing of the past, housewives must have cheered. And hence came the well-known catchphrase to describe something new and original. It's the best thing since sliced bread. The clothes prop man with his horse and cart came by a couple of times a year. His cries of clothes props, had householders running into the street to select some of his forked saplings to prop up their clotheslines. I used to watch Nana and Mum positioning those unwieldy props under the sagging clotheslines, then push them up so the newly washed clothes could catch a breeze or give them better access to the sun. The weekly washing day was hard work, an arduous and dangerous task that people today would find difficult to get their heads around. It was quite a procedure. First, a large copper was filled with water and brought to the boil. Items were added and agitated with a thick wooden stick. Next, the load was heaved from the copper into a tub with the same wooden stick, rinsed, fed through a mangle attached to the tub, and the water squeezed out. The whites were always washed first, followed by the colours. What a boon the washing machine and the Hills hoist must have been for women, and later the dryer. No more struggling with bed linen, towels and clothes in and out of boiling water, and no more clothes props to grapple with. But, with these new inventions and automation, the clothes prop man became redundant, as did the horse and cart. When the horse and cart disappeared from daily life, Gardeners everywhere lamented the fact that piles of horse manure were no longer readily available to shovel up and fertilize their gardens. Nana was one such gardener. Her roses were her pride and joy. The iceman was also someone we saw on a daily basis. Refrigerators were unheard of, and instead we had an ice chest. Hefting a block of ice on his shoulder, the iceman would come into the house and put the block into it. As the ice melted, it dripped into a receptacle that had to be emptied frequently throughout the day. Food couldn't be kept long, unlike today with our sophisticated fridges and freezers that allow us to keep perishables for extended periods of time. Very few people had a telephone, and mobile phones were unheard of. Our family didn't have a phone, but a neighbor did, and kindly allowed us and others to use her phone when needed. There was no television, and children had to amuse themselves. We played hopscotch, cards, jacks, Monopoly, fiddlesticks, and skipped with a rope. We also read, coloured in, played make-believe games, and went to the pictures, as it was called back then, not the movies or cinema, as we say today. In the year 2025, we are spoilt for choice with modern conveniences and labour-saving devices. However, something has been lost along the way. There's now a busyness that was not there before, and a lack of connectedness with our neighbours. As humans, connection is vital to our well-being, and we need to reach out more to others, lest we lose our humanity. The end.